I guess we got some scary news concerning the King.
Yeah, a few days ago, I think it was Jerry Lawler's Twitter account had come out and said that he had recently suffered another stroke and he was in the hospital. But luckily, it said even though like his speech was impacted,
Okay.
it says it's expected he'll make a full recovery. But it's scary hearing about that, given he's already had a heart attack.
Yeah, he had a
and all
heart
that,
attack.
so
Yeah, I mean that's kind of scary, because he just, like you mentioned, he just had that heart attack just a few years back, and he had that actually on live television to where it shook up Michael Cole so much he couldn't even go on with the program. It was like he just sat there, and I guess it was just kept checking as I'm looking stuff up here. The program, and so and how old is the King?
Jerry Lawler, he's in his 70s, I believe. I'm gonna just check real quick. Jerry Lawler is 73 years old.
73. So he's unfortunately, kind of at that age, where we see a lot of
The health scares that are more common.
yeah,
than we would like.
He did from what I remember. From what I know, he came back for Raw 30. He did some commentary there, which was
Yeah,
actually
that
really
was nice hearing him.
It was nice because King was a big part of that Raw era with Jim Ross, and of course Jim Ross is over at AEW. So just to hear him do commentary was really cool. It brought back a lot of really good memories. But
Because he was one of the commentators that I grew up with. The commentary team of him and Michael Cole was one I remember most.
yeah, he made the very famous phrase "puppies."
Yep.
Puppies! Because you couldn't say titties on live television.
Or just like another one of my favorites that he did was that's it, he's dead. He's dead. Of course, during the iconic Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Mankind.
Yeah. I mean, he was ringside for that, that giant fall from Mick Foley. It was like,
No, but I'm pretty sure that happened after when he was thrown through the top, so not just after he was thrown off the top of the cell.
Okay, yeah. Right through the key. That's it. He's dead. But it's interesting because the King has had such an illustrious career. It was funny because we were like, before we came on, there was like you were looking up, stuff to like you wanted to get an update on the how he was doing in the hospital, and he goes, he's like, all this is giving me is his career. And
it was an article from People, so it was by a magazine that's probably not. I guess mostly read by wrestling fans, so
yeah,
a lot of people who would read that article aren't already familiar with Jerry Lawler, but it's like I'm reading the story trying to get updates, and it's like, Jerry Lawler was a wrestler back in the Memphis Territories in the 1970s. It's like, I know that.
I'm sorry to be laughing, but it's true. It's like they do this nowadays. It's like they give you the headline. You're like, oh, what happened here? And normally when I think in high school and college, they tell you if you give the headline, you want to give the headline, and then you give the headline again in like the first paragraph, and then you talk about it. And nowadays, it's like they give the headline, and then they give four
pages,
or
at
a
least
backstory, and you're like,
it's like the joke about the recipe articles where it's like we want to learn how to make chicken Alfredo, and we don't want to learn about your entire life backstory from the time you grew up to the time when you first tasted chicken Alfredo. Nobody cares about that. Come on, just tell me how to make it.
Just tell you, that's absolutely hysterically funny. But yeah, the King has had a long and illustrious career. I mean, has some of the most iconic wrestling moments in history. Starting all the way back when he wrestled A.D. Kaufman.
Oh yeah.
And supposedly put A.D. Kaufman in a neck brace, and it was like and the slap heard around the world when he was
on David Letterman.
And it was like, it was just one of those iconic things. But I would have to give credit to the King. One of the things that he's done really well is that when he had that heart attack, it was like, I'm done. I don't think we've seen him in another match since then. I
think he has wrestled, but it's very
limited,
sporadic. Let me look.
I mean, because I don't remember him being back in the ring after he had that heart attack. I think it was like, that was
At least not in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just one of those things where it's like
Lawler.
it's a scary thing. It's like, but I mean, now that he's not like Terry Funk, you know what I'm saying? It's like
where he retires.
every
few weeks.
Yeah, it's like Terry Funk comes on and says, "I'm retiring," and we're like, okay, and then they have this big retirement match for Terry, and then
he has wrestled quite a bit.
Three months later, Terry has another match.
But it's all in independent promotions. Okay. And again, it's not like a full-time schedule, of course. It's usually just like maybe a match every few months,
But I mean, give him credit. He's not someone that is like so. Because apparently wrestlers when they've been doing this for so long, it's like it has to come to a point where it's like they're forced to stop. Something forces them to stop.
Like with Ric Flair,
Oh gosh.
Where he had his last match, which was
disastrous.
Not to be rude, but it was rather pitiful.
Yeah, it was disastrous.
A pitiful sight to behold. And apparently, I think it was so bad. I think Ric Flair had come out saying he wanted
he wanted a rematch
because it had not put him in a very flattering light.
No, I mean,
but it's like, dude, you've already had way too many health scares to be risking it like that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when you're in your 70s, thankfully I'm nowhere near there yet. But when you're in your 70s, you don't have the same mobility or the same strength. I mean, one of the things we talked about last week when we were talking about Booker T, was in the Royal Rumble. I mean, he looked really rusty. He did not look like those kicks did not look as smooth as they had been when he was like 15, 20 years ago. I mean,
granted, he hasn't been a full-time wrestler for however long, but... Yeah. So, of course, you can expect some rust, but as you're going back, you're not the same mobility, the same energy that you had during your prime.
And I mean, I think even Ricky Steamboat, who was the dude that he wrestled for his last match, is like, Rick, we don't want to do this again. I mean, I know it was a bad match, but we don't want to. Let's talk about when Kurt Angle had his last match with Baron Corbin, and it was horrible. It was like, it was. I mean, let me just give props. I love Baron Corbin. I was first when I first saw him. I was kind of like I was not sure about this guy, but as I've seen him over the years, I've become a huge fan of Baron Corbin. And Baron Corbin carried Kurt Angle in that last match. Carried him because Kurt Angle was in nowhere near shape that he used to be in in his prime. I mean, no one's 10 years after their prime. It's nowhere near. But I mean, it was just. I mean, I remember watching that match, going, "Oh, just give it up, just give it up, call it a day." I mean, and I think they really wanted to give Kurt a big send off, and it looked horrible. And
I think they actually did have Kurt wrestle more matches after that because, as he said, the Baron Corbin match was not received well. But
it was horrible.
Remember, what is his last match? Because I don't believe it was.
He's going to look this up because
pardon me.
He's got like a red line to like a lot of the wrestling news and stuff. What?
CageMatch.net.
CageMatch.net was where he usually goes to get all the information.
Find every wrestler's match in every promotion ever, pretty much.
Really? Cool deal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, we just saw Kurt, again, Kurt was also at Raw 30, and Kurt looked good. He looked good for someone who, has not been, taking all these bumps for several months. And so I think, I remember,
apparently that was Kurt Angle's last match was against Baron Corbin. The one I was thinking of was, I thought he had a match with Drew McIntyre once on Raw, and I thought that happened after the Baron Corbin match. It happened before.
And again, Kurt, we love Kurt. It's like, but you get. I mean, Kurt has had. Kurt has had so many injuries and surgeries. I don't think I have enough fingers on a hand.
Yeah.
To count that high, to go that high. And he's battled his addictions and everything else. But it's just, you get to a certain point in your life where it's like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. You know, it doesn't. It's even like we joked, not going totally off the rails, but we joked when Tom Brady said he was retiring, and we were like, yeah, for how long?
Yeah, see you back on the field in a few months.
Yeah, because it's hard to get.
He's going to be the Terry Funk of football.
He is. I mean, that's what I worry about. Some people are like, I mean,
He's going to retire, and then he's going to see, oh, there's payday there. I'm going to play again.
I mean, it's true. But I mean, Steve Young even came out and said, if he stayed healthy, he could play till he's 50. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, because it only takes one good hit, and Steve Young would know about that because he took one good hit, and his career was done. Mm-hmm. And so it would only take one good hit to knock Tom Brady off his senses. It would, and in wrestling, it takes one bad bump to have your career just go totally off the rails again.
Just look at draws, one bad move, and paralyzed for life.
For life. Let's look at Jason Jordan. We'll go back to Jason Jordan. One bad move and
retired. And what was he? Only in his mid-20s.
In mid-20s, he was. Everybody's talking about. This guy's gonna have a great career. It was cut short because, and these guys practice these moves for hours. We talked about. I remember when we talked about the SmackDown women's match between Shotzi and Ronda, and how that one move off the
where they went for that DDT onto the apron,
and Ronda was like, she wasn't very happy because apparently they were only given 3 hours to rehearse it, and Ronda was not happy about how the move pulled off. They did the best they could, but they just couldn't get it right, and they were afraid that. As I said, they were afraid that if they waited until they got in the right position, they would have been sitting there for 20 seconds, which is an eternity in wrestling. It's it's an eternity in wrestling where you're trying to. You watch these guys when they're trying to get the.
When they're going for the high rope. Or
the superplex. I mean,
or they're going for these high risk maneuvers off the top rope onto the group of people, but it's I know you're supposed to have some suspension of disbelief for any form of entertainment, but when you see a group of people standing there for 10 seconds waiting for a guy to get up on the top rope and jump off, it completely takes you out of the moment. And that goes back to setting up that
superplex.
Thing between Shotzi and Ronda,
It's just, it felt like it took forever. And Ronda was not happy with it. Shotzi was like, well, it is what it is. They didn't have a whole lot of time to rehearse that. If that was the case, they actually did a pretty good job because I mean, I actually liked the match. I'm one of the few people that
it was all right. It wasn't
spectacular.
As good as I had expected, but
it wasn't a spectacular match, but it was a good match.
It was what it was.
It was solid. That's what when you're doing a pay-per-view, you want every match to be a solid match. But I mean, it's just. Going back to the King, I mean, I'm hoping that he takes this opportunity to just kick back and relax, and you don't have to wrestle anymore. I mean, I mean, you've made some pretty good money. Hopefully, you've invested it well, and to just write a memoir. I mean, I would love to read a book, from Jerry the King Lawler and all the crazy shit that he did, even especially I would love to hear how you set up and did that whole stuff with
the whole Andy Kaufman
thing
storyline.
Yeah, it just be, but don't. I mean, you're in your 70s.
Don't want to push it.
We don't want to hear that that you suffered another heart attack or a stroke while you were
in the ring
wrestling at some podunk gym in Fairfield, California, or something. You know what I'm saying? We want to be able to have our
legends with us for as long as possible,
right? And or at least remember them in a way that's
not tragic.
Yeah,
I guess
that's a good way to put it.